Do you want to take your game to the next level? Plyometrics can help you do that. A lot of high school athletes hyperfixate on working out and going to the gym and expect it to be a game changer on the field. While it does help to work out and get stronger, it may not help you get any better playing field sports like football, basketball, lacrosse, soccer, etc. To get better, you have to first play the sport because you can't get any better at something without doing it. And second thing you have to do is to get more athletic, like get faster, jump higher, improve horizontal speed, and improve acceleration. And plyometrics can help you with all of those. Before we talk too much about plyometrics, I want to define what plyometrics are. According to harvard.edu, plyometrics are short bursts of activity or exercise that targets the lower body fast twitch muscle fibers. That may sound kind of vague, like what are fast twitch muscle fibers and how exactly do I know if I'm targeting them? Well, your body has two types of muscle fibers, fast twitch and slow twitch. To keep it simple, slow twitch fibers do a lot of the slower movements like jogging, walking, and holding posture, while fast twitch muscle fibers do all of the fast movements like sprinting and jumping. Training fast twitch muscle fibers is very simple, pretty much just do an exercise but faster. Plyometrics are a must for athletes because many athletes are obsessed with the grind mindset, which is good but only to an extent. It is good to want to work hard, but that can sometimes hurt you. Many athletes who only focus on weight room work are slow, can't jump, and are slow on their feet, which is why plyometrics are the perfect solution. They will get you looking electric on the field, on the court, on the track, or wherever else you play sports. Now let's talk about some very good plyometrics that you can do at home with no equipment. Okay, so now that we've gone over what a plyometric is and why it's important, now I'm going to be going over some good plyometrics to start out with. And again, there's so many plyometrics, but these are some of my personal favorites. All right, so the first plyometric I want to be talking about is actually two, but they're both really similar. I wanted to talk about A skips and B skips. So these are really good for just like starting to get your form down for running, and they're also really good for a warm-up. So at first, it's really good to do them just to like get the movements down so you can get that horizontal line and then that vertical line right here. And then once you get that down, it's really good to do at a warm-up before you start working out or a game or anything, just so you can get those legs moving. And so now let's get right into it. The first one, A skip, is pretty much you go up here, work on the arms, and then you land right under you. Some of them where you're landing right under your body. So you can start in place just so you can get the movement down. And then once you do that, you can start adding some momentum to it, just a little bit. And when you do these, you could go for like 15, 20 meters, nothing too much, not too crazy. And then another variation of that is A switches. So it's basically the same thing, but instead of going in like a rhythm like that, you switch. So you go up and down like that. And yeah, so that's A switches. And the one that's really similar to that is B skips. That's pretty much, you go up to that 90 degree, that vertical angle, but instead of going straight under you, you kind of like sweep out. And you kind of like sweep and still in right under you, but you're sweeping instead of just stomping down. So that'll kind of look like this. Another one that's really similar to that is basically like the progression of an A skip is high knees. So pretty much just the same thing. You've probably been doing them since you were little, so not too much that needs to be explained there. You just as fast as you can. And with these, I like to emphasize certain parts, so it kind of changes on whatever I'm trying to work on. So like, if I really wanted to work on my vertical force, for those A skips, I'll make sure to like step into the ground really high. If I wanted to work on the hip mobility, I'd try and get a little higher, try and get my knees a little higher than normal. If I wanted to work on the arms, I'll just emphasize those a little more. So you can kind of just tweak it very tiny bit just to work on whatever you feel like you need to do. Next plyometric I'm going to be talking about is box jumps, which also correlates to depth drops and I'll get into the purpose of each of those. So box jumps are to develop vertical force, obviously, and you could also work your way up to a single leg box jump, which is very good for that single leg power, which is good for like any sport, because every sport can really benefit from some single leg power and some vertical force. So box jumps, obviously you find a place to jump onto. Most gyms will have boxes, but not everybody has a gym membership, so you can find a set of stairs, you can find a park table, you can find just a bench like this. Pretty much everywhere you can find something to box jump, and it doesn't have to be super tall. Like, it could be this tall and it could be this tall, and it would still give me the same benefit, because if you have to reach for that top box, it's not like you're getting any higher, you're just putting your legs up higher to catch yourself. So I could jump a box like this and not need to really catch myself, or I could jump a box like this and still need to catch myself, but I would be putting the same amount of force into the ground. It's just how I land that's really making the difference. So you don't need to go too high on these, especially since that can raise your risk of injury. So box jumps are really good, and it's really simple, just like that. And then working with the single leg format, don't like do this right away, because not everybody's body is like ready to just go straight into it. But work your way up, give yourself a few weeks of normal box jumps, and then you'll be able to do a single leg jump, which is pretty simple, really not that hard. And then depth drops, like I mentioned earlier, those are really good to get your legs trained to absorb force. So basically, you just stand in a box and drop off, because the better your legs are at absorbing force, the easier it'll be when you're running to like bounce to that next step, because your legs aren't collapsing. They can just bounce right off the ground, and you can just keep going faster. And that also correlates to pogos a lot, which we'll talk about later, but pogos are one of my personal favorites. The next plyometric I want to be talking about is hill sprints and sled pulls. I'm talking about them both because they really do the same job. Sled pulls do a little better of a job, just because like for acceleration for track, for example, you're able to wear that sled and kind of like explode from a block, which you can't really do as easily on a hill. So you just have a little bit more versatility when doing sled pulls versus hill sprints. But obviously sleds cost a lot of money, so hill sprints are like the free version of that. And basically those are really good for acceleration work and getting those angles down. And when I say angles, I mean like when you're first accelerating, you want to have horizontal force. So you're pushing back and not down or in front of you, because that's how you accelerate the fastest. So when you're doing a hill sprint, it puts your body into that position so you can just explode out. Because when you're up, like when you're running up a slant, an angle, and your body just naturally does that. And so when you do hill sprints and sled pulls, it trains your body just to naturally do that. And it's really good for power development. It's just really good all around, unfortunately. All right, next one we're gonna be talking about, I had to bring you a little lower because it's basically just from your knees down is what this plyometric is, but it's really good for getting that ground contact time and working on ankle stiffness. So if this is your first time hearing about ankle stiffness, it's not a bad thing. It's actually really helpful. Like I said earlier with those depth drops, the more your body is trained to resist the downward force when you're running, the more you're able to push down, and the better you can explode outwards. So like if you don't have very good ankle stiffness, you'll be collapsing each step instead of just bouncing straight off. So that would be like running on a flat tire, is what I like to say, because you're just not able to produce as much force, and you're not able to resist the gravity that you get for each step. And so basically pogos are really simple. You're basically just jumping up and down. And so these are really good, like I just explained. And you can definitely work up to it. You could also do jump ropes, which will work on very similar things. And so you can start with just like low-level pogos, just by like 30 to 60 seconds, just kind of jumping not too high. And then you can move it up to like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then you can work on high-intensity pogos and jump a little higher, just like that. And then once you get that down, you can start adding some momentum to it. So you could do like pogos for 10, 15 meters. You could do hurdle hops or like pogo jumps and jump over a hurdle. But pogos are extremely important, and I don't think they get talked about enough, because that ankle stiffness and the vertical force and the downward force resistance is extremely important. All right, so the last plyometric I wanted to talk about was just straight up running. And yes, that is a plyometric. All these things that I've talked about will help, but the most important thing to getting faster and more athletic is running. And it's also really important to run with other fast people to help push you and just to help you be your best. There are 3 types of running that you need to keep in mind. The first is cardio. We all know what cardio is. It's just like how long you're able to run, how well conditioned you are. The second is full out sprinting, so sprinting at 100%. This do no longer than 6 to 7 seconds per rep. And then once your reps start to slow down, that's when you need to stop, because that's when your muscles are tired. After you sprint longer than 6 to 7 seconds, it becomes speed endurance, which is how long you're able to really hold the high speeds. It just won't be your top speed. So this is probably between like 10 to about 30 seconds is how long you're able to maintain that like 80 to 90% speed. So it's really good to include all of these in your workouts. These are just a few of many plyometrics, so you can choose some to fit the needs of your sport. Plyometrics are the key to athleticism and are the secret to why all great athletes are so electric.